One of the most frustrating things about selling on Amazon are the reviews. Now, it's a double-edged sword. The reviews help give customers trust. So the more reviews you have, ultimately, the more trust people have in your product if it's a good rating overall. So if you're at least about a 4.5 stars showing up, then you're going to do pretty well. Now, if you get to below 4.25 and all of a sudden you're showing up as 4 stars, that could take an effect on your conversions and whether or not people click on your listing, as well as if you drop below 4 stars, it could be borderline catastrophic for your product. So, what do you do if you get 1 star reviews that seem unfair? What do you do if you get 1 star reviews that seem like you're getting them all at once and it's a coordinated attack? That actually happens sometimes. It's one of the dirty secrets about selling on Amazon. Most sellers are good people and want to do the right thing and want to focus on selling a good product, but there are some bad actors out there who will sometimes go after products of their competitors with a bunch of 1 star reviews kind of all at once. So if that starts to happen to you, we're going to talk about some things you could do in that particular case. So my name is Kevin Sanderson from My Amazon Guy, and I'm going to share with you some things, some resources that we have available for you to help you if bad things happen on the platform. So one of the things I highly recommend you do is you download our free Amazon Crisis Kit, which will have a link in the description down below. And in the Crisis Kit, we do talk about quite a few different things that could happen on Amazon. One of those is review bombs and negative review attacks. So it is an awful feeling when you get a 1 star review. If you get a couple of 1 star reviews, it might just be there's a problem with the product that you need to address as the seller. It may not be a coordinated attack, but it could be a coordinated attack. So what are some things you could do to protect yourself in the light of having potentially a coordinated attack on your listing? So what are some potential negative review attack causes? And so those causes might be a malicious competitor. And that's kind of where we go to a lot of times when they think, oh, it's the other guy or the other gal that's selling a similar product. They're after me. Well, it may or may not be. Just you want to look for certain things like in the reviews or people mentioning, oh, but the other product is so much better. Da, 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 da. Well, that might kind of lead you towards that. Or, it could be some other things. It could be an organized campaign of maybe some sort of activist group that doesn't like your type of product for whatever reason. Maybe you have a particular ingredient that suddenly became the hot topic that people are talking about online in certain communities, because sometimes there's niche communities online that get very passionate about certain things, and maybe your product has an ingredient or a component or is made out of a certain material that now all of a sudden certain groups don't like, and so maybe they come after you. Could be any particular variety of types of activist type groups, and they might be in the right mindset wanting to do something good for the world, but for your product they're coming after you and maybe unfair. And so you want to take a look and see if there's some sort of organized group. And then are there some sort of fake review brokers, which oddly enough there are services which will do those type of things. Amazon's pretty good about dropping the hammer and even has sued people there, because there used to be on online groups like Fiverr where you could buy people to do certain services for you. It used to be, and this is not an attack on Fiverr, this is just mention of what used to happen sometimes, is that people would offer positive and negative review services on Fiverr. Amazon actually sued some of the people that were selling those services. So a couple things you could do is just to see if this is an organized campaign against you, just Google your product. Google your product name, Google your ASIN, because Amazon has a variety of different ways that the link to your product detail page might show up. So if you just copy and paste your product detail page, it may be different than oftentimes how the customer found it. So if they found it through a search, oftentimes in that URL is the search. So what you're trying to do is find some sort of artifact that leads you to maybe a Reddit thread or somewhere else where someone was talking about your product and asking people to go and leave a review, a negative one. And that might be in a private group that will not show up in search, but it's at least worth looking into. Then the malicious competitor, that is definitely a bad one. What you're going to want to do is, if you can't find some sort of evidence of what caused the attack, you want to maybe look into some other ways that maybe you could report the review that if it doesn't meet Amazon's guidelines. Because Amazon does have very specific guidelines and they are very protective of their reviews. Now, they're not looking to just remove reviews because it hurt our feelings that somebody left a bad review. That's not something you can do. You want to keep emotion out of it and look at it from the standpoint of, if you're Amazon, you want to protect the integrity of your review platform, both positive and negative reviews that shouldn't be there. What are the things you would want to hear? So put yourself in that mindset when you go to look for what might be a potential way to report these to Amazon. So first off, you want to look at Amazon's community guidelines. So Amazon has guidelines that aren't just, in the Amazon seller terms of service, but they're basically in the community guidelines, which are like Amazon's terms of service, so to speak, for reviews from customers. It's pretty long. You can go through and look for some things like if there's any profanity or hate speech or anything that might be offensive, that's grounds that Amazon would remove it. And then also, the conflicts of interest. That's where you're really looking for things, because you want to, if you do see that there is some sort of potential conflict of interest that you can prove or at least have Amazon investigate, you want to take a look at reviews that they don't allow. They have guidelines for reviews that they don't allow. Now, one of them is a negative review from a seller on a competitor's product. So if you're the seller, you can't leave a review, positive or negative, for your competitor. Someone can't leave multiple reviews from one customer. So one customer can't buy your product 10 times and leave 10 reviews. They get one bite at that apple. So if there's multiple reviews from one person, then that would be grounds. Now, that's going to be not the smartest tool in the tool shed or the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm losing track of that. But basically, if they did that, that would be pretty obvious. Now, usually it's coordinated attack from different buyer accounts if that does happen. But if it does happen to you, see if you can find a way that you can leverage Amazon's guidelines. And then when you report it to Amazon, you could just go through and, report the review as something else or fake, whatever the case is. If you find one of these reviews and then right there, they have the community guidelines, Amazon makes this very clear. They're not trying to hide their community guidelines. If you can find that, then report it there. There's an email address, community-help@amazon.com. The feedback you will find in general, the MO, so to speak, for community-help@amazon.com, you may not hear back from them. They may investigate it on their own. They may not report back to you, but that inbox probably gets a lot of feedback or a lot of submissions. An example here that I found on this Reddit thread with this particular email address, just because I was trying to see if I could find somewhere where people were talking about this email address online. This has nothing to do with selling. This is someone who is no longer eligible to contribute reviews. They were given that email address because that's the community help email address. So you could report it to community help. You could report it to seller support, but you may or may not get what you're looking for. Now, there are also services out there. We at My Amazon Guy would be more than happy to talk to you if you think that we can help you with your reviews. At least try to go after them, so to speak. Now, if you do have a coordinated attack and you have some sort of evidence, you could also talk to an attorney. There are attorneys out there who could at least draft a cease and desist letter. Now, that's not just because somebody left a 1-star review and you didn't like it, or I didn't like it. I mean, none of us like it. Some of it is just dealing with the platform. But if you see a coordinated attack, a lawyer can at least help you with strong language that would have some actual teeth behind it. And then also look at ways to potentially mitigate the damage. So oftentimes in life, we have to take feedback, and that feedback may not be what we want to hear. And so you have to sometimes just say, you know what, maybe there is some validity to the reviews, even if it's a coordinated attack. Even if it's completely unfair, maybe there's still kernels of truth that you can have, better images and better A+ content that can get in front of that potential issue. And then that might prevent people from leaving negative reviews for you on the future. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And again, you can download our Amazon Crisis Kit, which we have a link to down below. And happy selling.
I know the Amazon grind can be overwhelming. From account issues to low traffic, it's a lot to handle. That's where My Amazon Guy steps in. Scan the QR code or click the link, and let's work together to boost your sales and make your life easier.